Welcome to the Scaleup Valley podcast, where we bring the best of the best to help you scale your business from 1 million to 1 trillion. Today we have amazing guests. Their names are Paulo Morgado and Paula Reis. Paulo and Anna, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you here. And Anna, let's start with you. Who is Anna? And after that, let us know a little bit more about BridgeWhat before getting to know Paulo as well.
Okay, so who am I? I would say, an experienced, past the 50s, so experienced entrepreneur, investor. I've had quite a fulfilled life from the corporate world to the entrepreneur world to the investment. But basically, if you ask me to define who I am, I would say I'm whatever entrepreneur. I love finding opportunities in the market and put them to work and help people develop and the companies to grow. So this is basically who I am.
Thank you, Anna. Let me introduce again. Today we are with Paulo Morgado and Paula Reis, the founders of BridgeWhat. And Paulo, what about you?
Well, as I think you know, I started my career in professional services, and I worked basically for multinationals, although also in the real economy by managing a listed company. So I would say that what differentiates me is the execution capacity, not only thinking about ambitious goals, but also to execute them, and always a duty on the commercial area. Because I spend most of my life as being the managing director, the CEO of companies, but always with the number one responsibility for sales.
I love it. And I have to disclose that I got to know Paul almost 10 years ago, and he has been my teacher in a model about execution, so that I really love it. And then I got passionate about the topic. And he has been also my mentor since before the beginning of Scaleup Valley. So, Paulo, publicly, thank you very much. And it's really a pleasure to have you both on the show. And
it's a pleasure to have you as my, well, my mentee, I don't know, but I think each time that we talk, we learn with each other. That's for true.
Love it. And I'm super excited because this week is very special for the business world and for me and for both of you, because it's the week where we are presenting BridgeWhat to the world. So what is BridgeWhat? Anna, would you like to go forward?
Sure. So BridgeWhat is a company that has a very specific niche of acting, which is growth. And this company is supported in two platforms, a digital one and a human one. In the digital platform, we basically help and support companies to have credentials, produce and explore and grow their own knowledge about their competence in the growth area and also their connections. In the human platform, what we do is we help facilitate and accelerate the interactions between sellers and buyers. And for this, we have developed, for each of these areas, we have developed two basic frameworks: the BridgeWhat 20 levers of growth that reproduce this process of interaction from sellers with the sellers and the buyers, basically, and the clients, the company's relationship to their clients in any sector. And the 4 C's, what we call the 4 C's of growth, that reproduce the process of go-to-market that we intuitively do, but that we have structured. So we start with credentials, content, connection, and counseling.
As we always have a delay between the recording and the release of the podcast, the official launch would be on the 21st of January, and we are recording this on the 19th of January for the ones who are listening to the podcast later on. Paulo, let's move into this amazing framework that is kind of the foundation of BridgeWhat that Anna just presented. Those are the 20 levers of growth around the 5 stages of client engagement. I'm studying them myself, so I've been around your website for a long time to prepare this podcast episodes. But I think this would be really interesting for our community of VC-backed scale-ups and corporate scale-ups, as we like to call them. So let us know a little bit more about the framework.
Okay. We have just acknowledged the execution part of the project, and especially that we must be objective and based on things that can be measured. So growth is a concept that must be landed in something that the companies can control. So the first thing that we are not creating anything that by itself is new. We are just putting together pieces that most of the time are dispersed. So the first 5 things that we put together is a normal engagement cycle with the clients, starting with the attraction of the company, then the acquisition of clients, then the average revenue per client, then retention, and then referrals. Nothing new about it. The only thing that we think is very new is that we developed 4 levers for each of the 5 stages. And it is around these 20 levers by the 5 stages that we create a language between sellers and buyers. Because imagine that the buyer that tells you, well, I need to grow. Well, you can shoot in any direction. So if you don't have a framework, you can start to say, well, you must insist on the sales force effectiveness. You must do more advertising. You must do this. You must do that. And it is a round conversation with any, I would say, grip to give rise to something innovative. So basically, the 20 levers of growth are were developed. Are our base of content. They are fulfilled not only with academic knowledge, but also with all the content that will be created by our participants, articles, and so on. So this is what differentiates BridgeWhat from a mere broker. We are not a broker. We are a content developer around the 20 levels of growth, in which we put a lot of academic knowledge, but also a lot of action learning knowledge. Okay.
I love it. And for the ones who are kind of understanding, so how do we have the 20 levers of growth? Those are the 5 stages, and in each stage you have 4 levers of growth, right? So across attraction, acquisition, ARPU, retention, and referrals. I'm kind of becoming a student of the methodology, as you can see. Anna, would you like to add something on the framework? Anything else?
Yes, I would like to add that when we talk about levers of growth, we mean tools and strategies that we have studied and are studied as the ones that best serve the stage where the company is versus its relationship with the clients. So we're not saying that they're the only ones, but if you want to be effective, this what we are proposing is don't waste your time and on an ad hoc way. Follow the levers. If you know where you are, those would be more effective for you to relate to your clients. So that's basically what we're talking about. Then this process relates to, as Paulo was saying, any kind of relationship process between a company and their own clients. But then we also have another way of looking at it, another framework, which is also important for us to consider, which is how do we develop, how do we follow this growth journey? And then we have the second framework that we have developed, which is the 4 C's of growth. So every time we meet someone, again, what we're doing is to put into a process and making clear something that is already happening in in the real world, in our relationships. So first I want to know who you are, so the credentials. Then when I know who you are, where you come from, I trust you. We want to know what you do, the content. And then when we have both, I can start to connect the connection, so the possibility of doing business. And the last one, I want to continue this growth. So I will start having counseling and exploring each other's network to grow together. That's basically that.
As a recap, the 4 C's: growth journey, credentials, content, connections, and counseling.
Exactly, you're learning.
Of course, I need to be prepared to have this amazing monsters in my in the show today. So I need to be ready to host you. So amazing way to start with 2 interesting frameworks. As you said, we have discussed it a lot on the show, the importance of creating a revenue machine for each stage of growth. And that revenue machine needs to have a retention engine and an acquisition engine, right? And if we don't work on both sides of the equation and of the machine, it will beat us at a certain point where we might face a growth ceiling or a wall that we are not able to surpass, or that starts working against us. For instance, the importance of customer success and retention, or not having iSure. So let's move into the 3 critical ingredients to scale that we always discuss on the show. You are more than invited to challenge them. So we keep editing those 3 ingredients with our guests. Number 1, radical focus. Number 2, world-class leadership /team/culture. I keep adding new layers to that second one. And the third one, culture of execution. Starting with the first one, radical focus. We all know that growth is very counterintuitive. So typically we believe that we have more people, we have more resources, we are in more markets, and we can start having the temptation to try to be everything to everyone. So attack all the geos at the same time, attack all the verticals at the same time, serve the businesses of all sizes at the same time. And this is something very normal, that we are already very educated in a startup, that we need to find a niche. But in a scale-up, we kind of forget those principles, and we start expanding instead of closing. So we start opening the funnel instead of closing, and doubling down on what works. Paulo, what's your view, and how do you relate the levers of growth with the importance of radical focus, or not relating, go in the direction that you would like to share with the audience some of the lessons advising other companies on your career?
Okay, let me start to talk about focus in another perspective before going there. The first thing that it's a radical focus when you are creating a company is that during 1 year, you don't think about anything else every day until your model works. This is the first radical focus, and I know few people that are able to maintain this level of concentration on the model. Okay, I remember that parts of the model that today are critical for the development were creating while I was cycling. Okay, but this is the first radical focus. Okay, then about the positioning, we have one first niche, which is we are only dedicated to growth. Okay, we do nothing else than growth. We don't do reorganization, we don't do cost reduction, we don't do all, I would say, aspects or topics of the management science. We do growth. Why? Because we think that there is a need on the market. And I can talk about other types of focus, like the geographical one, related to company size and so on. But I would say that we are a growth company, nothing else. And this is our niche. Okay.
Love it. And
So let me tell you about the geographical focus. So we have these two sides of the table. We have from the one hand, the buyers, so the companies that want to grow and are willing to look at the market and look for other companies that can provide them solutions, innovative solutions for them to grow. In the buyers, we have a geographical focus, which is Iberia. We want companies that are medium-sized to large-sized companies operating in Portugal and or Spain. So we have this very clear geographical focus for the moment. Then on the other side of the table, so the sellers, and the sellers are these other companies that have as competences one or more they sell services that are core in one or more of the 20 levers of growth. So, and those are, that's really, really very clear. Only companies that are sellers and that fit in this description of the 20 levers of growth. And in here, we're not looking at the geographical split. We look at the competences. We want the best, and no matter where they are located, and independently of size. So we want to make this match work. So the ones that want to grow by looking at services and innovative solutions, and the ones that can provide them no matter where they are. So we are looking a lot to services and services that are mainly digital, because we need to do this match.
Just one more thing to add, which is we are not focusing on the sector, at least we are excluding some sectors like the public sector, which we don't address, but we are not focusing on one sector on the depart because we believe in cross-fertilization. We believe that the telco sector can bring innovative solutions to financial services and so on. But obviously, as we start to work, some clusters start to form, and the goal we will focus not by ab initio decision, but by a consequence decision where the market wants to go.
Right, and I like it's kind of defining a domain or defining an horizontal to focus on. I think that this was one of the points that most challenged my way of thinking. Instead of focusing on a vertical, focusing on an horizontal or in a domain, like the growth domain, as you were explaining.
And there's one thing that I would like to add on Paulo's comment, because what Paulo was mentioning was exactly a way of focusing. We are focused on where the market is going to take us. So I think that's very important.
That's a great point, is the discipline of going in the direction of the vision, and also the flexibility to listen what the market is telling us, right? So it's very easy to start to be attached to the vision or to the assumptions that we make when we start the company, and not be flexible to what the reality, what the customers are asking us. And also having the courage to say no if that direction doesn't fit the vision, but not being attached to that vision, that we are not able to be flexible and find out other opportunities. It's curious because it's all about execution, and execution is a lot about unblocking some of our beliefs and some of our internal myths. And I think that that's the difficult part of growth, is we can't, if we are not growing, the company can't grow. So that's why it is only possible to grow if we grow first as human beings and as teams, right? And what a better introduction to bring the second ingredient, world-class leadership / team / culture. Of course, teams have different structures and different iterations across different stages of growth. A company that starts, that is being funded, it's all about the founding team. Later on, it's the first leadership team that might be a functional oriented team. Later on, another leadership team that might be more matrix organization. So there are different stages of growth. So what are some of your lessons learned about leading, forming, building teams for each stage of growth in the clients that you have worked with, or in other professional experiences during your career? And we can start with you now.
Okay. I mean, teams and people and the way that they work and integrate are absolutely fundamental and at the root of success of any company. And this is also what happens to us. In our case, and because of that experience of how we work, we are, both of us have approximately 30 years of experience. So we've been there, we've done that. We've been through a lot of different situations, which helps us to understand the market. And Paula and I, we know each other for more than 20 years now, which is also important because there is a complementarity. We are very complementary in the way that we look at not only the business, fundamentally the business, but also the way that we should position ourselves versus the market, and particularly on this growth mindset that, as you said, Mike, very well said. Growth is not about growing your company only; it's about your personal development also, and that's something that both Paulo and I, and if you look at where we've been and what we've done, and the different positions that we have assumed, the academic journey that we've both have shows that general, very felt and lived growth mindset. So teams need to have that. There needs to be a glue. There needs to be this cultural focus. And culture means a way of acting because you feel that what you're doing has a reason and there's a way to express yourself, and you have your fit in this biggest picture. So Paula and I, because we know each other for more than 20 years, we have worked together, we have shared a lot of lunches together, always talking about growth. There had to be something. So this is what's really important, that you know that you are complementary, that your experiences are complementary, and it's very important because we have done sales, we have this strategic mindset, we know technology. And we're not new to this. So we have a very good feeling of how the market is. And that's what a team must have.
Absolutely. I think this complementarity across the founding team is so important. Paulo, what would you add, and what are your thoughts about building teams for each stage of growth?
Well, it is not something that is quite common, what I'm going to say, but client centricity is something that a company must put at the top of the culture, obviously, because today you still assist to a marketing department working in silos when you compare to a sales department, okay? And I see marketing and sales as a line. And if you have a segment of marketing which is large, we need a segment of sales that could be shorter. But if you have a little segment on the market, you must have a big segment for the sales. So they are complementary. You know that one of the things that we assist more and more is that big organizations are struggling with bureaucracy, okay? The divisions among the different departments don't let organizations breathe, and basically they do not innovate because they don't work together. Obviously, when we go to LinkedIn, you talk a lot about cross-fertilization, leadership, climate change, this type of things, okay? But at the end of the day, the organizations still see the different departments as serving the company itself, not serving the client. So teams, the type of profiles that we need more and more are those that can see in each piece of their work the client. If they are not seeing on their work the value added for the client, then I would say that they are just working for the company. And when you work just to serve the company, you are a bureaucrat, and a bureaucrat is not an innovative guy or a creator. So I would not be a client for a bureaucrat, okay? Unless I'm talking about the public sector, which start to have some commonalities between state and big companies, you know? So
Right.
this is also why we founded BridgeWhat, because we want to give voice to entrepreneurship. We want to give voice to smaller companies. We want to put together smaller companies that are very creative, that want to grow, want to create new things, and we want to give them a space, a brand to develop business, and not only being dependent with from the companies that have well-reputed brands, but people that, as I told you, are more engaged on internal things than looking at client needs.
I love it, and it also talks about the importance of having diversity. That I know it's one of your fellows at BridgeWhat in the teams, right? So different ages, different genders, different nationalities, different profiles. We like to discuss here on the show as well the builders and the scalers, the ones who like to optimize machines that are already working, and the ones who want to create new machines and to innovate. And there are different profiles, right? So, and typically say, don't try to reinvent the wheel, right? And this is typical a sentence that I like to say, and let's double down on what works. But what I found out is that we need to have those both profiles on the team. So we need to have someone who is happy to start thinking about what is the next engine that will move us from 10 to 20 million, or from 20 million to 50, or 50 to 100, or 100 to 1B. And we need to have that one that is optimizing the machine that is already working, to have the short-term growth that we also need to achieve that long-term growth. But I think that all of this connects with what you just said, which is the customer centricity and having the clients first, right? Again, the framework that we discussed earlier across the different stages of engagement with client: attraction, acquisition, ARPU, retention, and referrals for the ones who wants to repeat that in their minds. I'm repeating because I'm also an avid consumer of podcasts, and I like to when the host repeats and summarizes the knowledge of the guests. So let's move into the third ingredient to scale, the culture of execution, that is much more related with the importance of alignment and having the rituals and the discipline, the narrative, the clarity to help teams to move into the same direction. So on your experience, what were some of the rhythms that have been critical to lead your teams or across the clients that you have the pleasure of advising? And then, Paul, let's start with you on this one.
First, let me tell you something. To have a culture of execution, you need to have a culture of execution. Okay.
I like it.
No, it's true, because you need to create the rituals that create a dance, okay, among people. You know that a difference between a ritual and a routine is something that you repeat without thinking, and the ritual is something that you repeat for thinking. Okay, so they are very different. So you need to transform the routines in rituals, because you need to challenge people to think again about the client. And the rituals are not only meetings. Rituals are information that we exchange, events that we develop. Rituals come in many phases, okay, many perspectives. For instance, the ritual of accumulating knowledge around the 20 levels of growth, this type of things that you repeat, always creating content, okay? You know that I'm a ritual fan, because I think we should repeat certain events that allows us to be creative. I like to put together frameworks with freedom of thought. So if you put them together, you are creating rituals, not thinking about something that is not executable, but something that makes some sense. So I would say that, and then I can talk about that, we are creating an ecosystem of people that are working with us, and that makes our human part of BridgeWhat, because as Anna was saying at the beginning, we combine a digital platform with a human platform. And this is one of the things that makes BridgeWhat unique, okay? Because usually you are either full digital or full human-centered, and we combine both. So maybe Anna can complement what we are doing with our ecosystem of people, I would say, and the rituals that we are creating. We even just contracted a company just to do that. Okay, so Anna, I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. I'll tell you about it, but I'll also tell you, as Paulo was saying, you have to feel the rituals. You have to feel that they make sense. And I'm going to tell you one thing that may surprise you, or may surprise some of the people that are listening, but it's what it is. So Paulo and I, we started developing this project back we started the conversation in January. We started developing the project back in February. And Paulo and I have only met twice. We've never been together, never, ever. And we did everything. So the reason why we were together was because we had to do 2 photo shootings for different reasons. And that's why we met. We've never been together, and we have developed the full model. We have clients. We're ready to go. In fact, we're going to meet for the 3rd time on Thursday, because we will do the launch straight from Madrid. And as soon as we finish this podcast, I'll be on my way to Madrid. But just to see that that's possible. Now, so having said that, that also means that we do have rituals between us that made us develop this model. And one very simple ritual that we do every time is every meeting we have. After the meeting, and we started doing that very intuitively, now we do it. Every meeting we have, we go back, and for 3 to 5 minutes, it never takes longer than that, we recap what happened. How did the meeting go? What was the need of the person that we were talking about? Do we want to continue to work with that person? Does that person want to work with us? What have we learned? And we've been changing the model even with that. So just for you to understand, and we do it every time. And it's we've never agreed to that, but now it's part of the ritual. Now, having said that, because I think it's a curious thing that's not very normal, Absolutely. And I would like to say that. The other thing is on what Paulo was saying on this ecosystem of great people that we are putting together. Part of our model, we have it based on this human network, which is mainly our affiliates and our advisors. So our advisors are very prestigious personalities that have a very long and well seen career in these big companies in Portugal and Spain that can help our participants to develop. Those that have the subscription on Platinum can have 4 hours of advisory every month on a one-to-one, meaning the advisor and the participant or its team. And the associates, the affiliates, we have agents and associates. The difference is agents are companies and associates are individuals. And I would focus more on the associates because that's the one that we are more developing now. Help us on the acquisition of new participants and help us on the success of these participants. They're also very prestigious professionals that know companies very well, that have good access and are capable of developing this profound conversation around growth. Now, currently, we already have approximately, not to say approximately, let's say straight, we have 19, 5 advisors and 14 associates. So we already have this big team of people that we need to start to make them put them on this machine and align. So our rituals go on to having regular meetings that we have already agreed. We have an onboarding for associates and an onboarding to start for advisors. We have a kind of it's like a conduct. It's really a code of conduct that we share amongst us, and we have these regular meetings with a certain agenda where we look at also the tools that we have developed. We use CRM tools that we share with them. So it doesn't come by chance. We do it.
Just to add one more thing, we are a content company, okay? So one of the rituals that will be asking to our ecosystem is also to create articles and to create content around the 20 levers. this is one of the most important rituals, not only for our ecosystem of affiliates and advisors, but for the participants as well. Is also something that makes BridgeWhat different, is that we motivate participants to publish around the 20 levels. And if you are a content company, you need to create content on a regular basis.
Love it. And we came to the end of the show, and I feel that I would stay here for a longer time. There is so much to cover and so much interesting insights that you can share with the Scaleup community. But let's go to our favorite question. So what advice would you offer to yourself if you had the opportunity to meet, to have a meeting with yourself kind of 20 or 30 years ago at the beginning of your career? And what advice would you offer to your younger self?
The advice has to do with what you've learned with yourself, right? So my main advice to myself is really the key of success is in focus. So do focus on what you believe.
Love it. And Paulo, what about you?
Well, I would say be truthful, which is be free, be ambitious. Something that is said and not executed is nothing. Be substantive rather than adjective. Well, all these kind of things that are related to, I would say, go further and growth as a human being, but especially be free.
Love it. Focus and freedom. That's a great way of closing the show. Anne and Paulo, thank you so much for making the time to join the podcast.
Thank you,
Mike. It was a pleasure.
Great. Yeah.
Thank you, and wish you a lot of success with BridgeWhat. You are always welcome to the show to share the progress with BridgeWhat. And we wish you an amazing launch on Thursday, the 21st of January. And to our community, we keep bringing you the best of the best to help your scalar business from 1 million to 1 trillion. So you are able to leverage their mistakes and their lessons on your favor. So we keep here serving you. See you soon and keep scaling.